On a highway, a sleepy driver was startled by a rabbit jumping across the road. The driver lost control and crashed into a fence. Luckily, he could get back on track, but one of the drums he carried fell over to land in a pond. The drum was contented with a load of chemicals. The crickets were collected by an exotic spider farmer named Joshua Taft. Joshua used the crickets to feed the spiders. Joshua showed his collection to Mike, including an enormous female orb weaver spider. The spiders that eat these crickets became odd. They grew faster and more significantly since they aggressively hunted prey. Mike, a loyal visitor to Joshua's farm, observed their unusual behavior. When Mike was visiting, Joshua forgot to close one of the glass box lids so that one of the spiders escaped. After Mike left, Joshua was bitten by an escaped tarantula and accidentally knocked down the spider cages. Joshua was killed by the spiders alongside his parrot. A week later, Mike could only call Joshua after his mother forbade him to go to Joshua's farm. However, no one picked up the phone from Mike because Joshua was dead. Mike's mother, Sam Parker, who worked as the town sheriff, asked Mike and his sister Ashley to stay home because tonight she had to be on duty to guard a town meeting. The citizens gathered at the mall to discuss the mining company's proposed acquisition of their land. Although the town was not doing well, residents were reluctant to sell their land. One of the residents who was against this plan was Chris. He has just returned to the town to manage a mine inherited by his father. The mayor of Prosperity, Wade, thought Chris' mine was dead and had no potential. Wade's opinion was different from the view of Chris's father. Before his father died, he had informed the residents that his mine still had gold content. Chris believed his father even though the gold had not been found. Wade later insults Chris's father for being delusional for thinking that gold was in the mine, then is punched by Chris. Chris was asked by his aunt, Gladys, to apologize for his behavior last night that troubled Sam. Chris agreed to her aunt's suggestion and rushed to Sam's house. At home, Sam was arguing with Ashley. Sam reminded her daughter to be careful in her relationships and to always carry a stunt gun just in case. Ashley was against it, but after understanding her mother's good intentions, she brought the stun gun in her bag. Before leaving, Ashley met Chris, who was already at her door. Chris' arrival at their house was used by Mike to sneak away to the farm. He found Joshua's house, which was filled with spider webs. At first, he thought the number of spiders there had increased many times. However, after he walked towards the back of the house, he found that it was most likely not only the number of spiders that had increased but their size as well. Behind Joshua's house, he saw an enormous trail of spider legs heading toward the mine. Mike continued his search and entered the mine. He followed the footprints of a giant spider. Slowly, Mike got out of the mine because in the distance, he saw the owner of the trail had appeared. Mike hitched a ride home in Chris's car. Chris asked what Mike was carrying. Mike tried to explain to Chris that the spiders had grown to enormous sizes based on a giant spider leg he found at the mine entrance. Chris did not believe him. The spider terror has become more intense. Residents haven't realized it yet. For example, Chris's worker went missing after fixing a water hose. Wade's ostrich was left with only its legs. Harlan, a local broadcaster in the city, broadcasted this news, but because Harlan was known as a conspiracy theorist, residents did not take it seriously. The spider terror continued. This time they attacked the motocross arena. Brett, who was the stepson of Wade, was at this arena. He was the first to see the spider swarm appear, but no one believed Brett's words until one of his friends was attacked. He and his friends were chased by jumping spiders. This spider was a reliable type and had fast movement. Seeing that his friends had been caught, Brett accelerated his motorbike until it flew across the street. Brett, the only survivor, accidentally cut off the telephone line and ended up stuck in the mine. Gladys searched for her missing dog. She saw a hole in the basement and found her dog's collar. Because Gladys feared her dog was in danger, she rushed into the hole. Soon she met the creature that kidnapped her dog. Gladys was immediately wrapped in a web to form a cocoon. This type of spider was a male orb weaver. It would wrap its prey and give it to the female, whose body size was 3 times larger than the male. Gladys screamed and was faintly heard by Chris, who had just arrived. Chris followed the sound and was surprised to find a hole in the basement. He also found a giant spider leg which was immediately taken to Mike's house. Mike estimated the size of the spider after measuring a piece of the leg brought by Chris using his computer. They were panicked and didn't have time to respond to Sam's curiosity. Suddenly they heard screaming from Ashley's room. They rushed over and found the orb weaver wrapping her up. Chris, who came to help, was also wrapped up. Sam killed the spider with a shotgun and saved them. Sam, who knew the spider terror was absolute, immediately contacted Pete through the intercom. Sam asked Pete to come directly, bringing all guns in the police station's possession to the mall. Pete immediately prepared what Sam asked, but did not realize he was being targeted by a spider. Fortunately, Pete was able to get into the car and drive away, but he wasn't completely safe because the spider was following him from behind. Mike explained that the spider was on the prowl at night, so they needed to warn residents of the danger. Since the phone lines were down, Mike came up with the idea of utilizing Harlan's broadcast show, which residents often listened to on the radio. When Pete arrived at Sam's house, he honked his horn, which attracted the attention of one of the spiders. Pete noticed that something was wrong with the roof of his car. Pete fired his bullhorn. Sam helped Pete, and they rushed to Harlan's radio station. Sam asked Pete, Mike, and Ashley to stay in the car and gave a signal if anything happened. Harlan was surprised by Sam and Chris' arrival. Sam asked Harlan to set up an emergency broadcast. Harlan was confused and couldn't believe what Sam had announced to his community. Mike, via a walkie-talkie, informed them that a vast spider was approaching their car. An incredulous Harlan pulled back the curtains and finally saw that this spider terror was not a hoax. On the other hand, the listeners still thought the warning was part of Harlan's show and did not take it seriously. But the frightened voices of Harlan, Sam, and Chris heard on the broadcast made the residents rethink the seriousness of the broadcast. Sam asked the residents to gather at the mall to keep everyone safe. There was an accident caused by a spider attack. The residents finally saw firsthand and realized this was not a hoax. The invasion of the spider swarm was intense and made the residents panic. As the town was besieged by vicious spider hordes, many people were eaten. The residents obeyed Sam's instructions and gathered in the basement, waiting until the last moment to enter the mall. The residents blamed each other for being unable to call for outside help because the telephone line was cut off. Mike explained that they couldn't make any noise as it would attract the spiders. To call for help, they have to use Wade's mobile phone, although to get a signal, they have to go up to the tower on the mall's roof. Chris agreed to go up to the building. He got support from Harlan. Meanwhile, the other residents are asked to barricade themselves. Mike took the perfume and gave it to Chris. Mike said that spiders' noses were sensitive, so the scent of smell could be used to confuse them. The giant spider arrived and broke into the front gate of the mall. Not caring about the panicked citizens, Wade flees into the mines and locks the gate before the attack, but is spotted by Ashley. Chris, who was already on the roof, was trying to get a mobile phone signal to call for help as they were being attacked by the spider. Chris finally got a signal to call 911, but was believed to be a prankster by a 911 receiver. More and more spiders were approaching. Harlan sacrificed himself to become a bait and jumped down. This tactic was also useless because none of the spiders followed him. Sam looked for Wade, and Ashley said she saw him sneaking into the storage room. Norman, the lockkeeper, said that Wade probably went there to escape through the door to the mine. Sam asked Ashley to immediately bring the injured residents to the storage room. Shortly after Ashley left, the mall gate was finally broken and a swarm of spiders entered the mall. The residents put up a makeshift fight and were cornered. They were scattered. As for Pete, he was finally separated from Sam and fought alone. Many spiders chased Pete, but he escaped until he got outside. He met Harlan, who had just fallen off the roof. Chris, who remained on the top, cornered after Harlan's strategy failed, decided to slide towards the air duct. He succeeded but got stuck there. Fortunately, Sam was there to help him. Brett apparently got lost in the mine while looking for a way out. He ran into Wade. Having just met, Wade was immediately caught by a male orb weaver. Sam and Chris met Ashley. Ashley said that the exit connected to the mine was locked, but soon the door was broken down by a forklift driven by Brett. Chris said to just follow the electric cable that led to the generator outside to get out. They all head through the mine straight to the front entrance. It's just that they smelled very concentrated methane when walking along the cable installation path. Besides methane, they also found a problem in front of them, a spider nest. Norman, who was at the very front, was attacked by a spider. They could not shoot it because of the methane gas. Fortunately, a resident carried weapons in the form of arrows, which Sam immediately used to shoot the spider. They found many human cocoons there. One of the cocoons seemed alive, and it turned out to be Wade. Seeing Wade alive, Chris hoped that his aunt was also alive. He planned to take advantage of the flammable methane gas in the mine. Sam understood what Chris' plan was. He broke a light bulb and then excused himself to look for his aunt. Before leaving, he asked Sam to turn on the generator when he got outside. Chris checked one by one the cocoons that were actually the food stock of the female orb weaver spider. Chris heard a coughing sound from one of the cocoons, opened it, and found it was Gladys. Chris was grateful that his only aunt was still alive. They were even happier because they saw the gold vein his father had claimed to have discovered. Sam was filled with joy to realize that his father was not delusional like many people claim. This moment of celebration was cut short because they still needed to go out. Sam and all the residents finally managed to get out of the mine. They soon found the generator, but switching it on was still another ordeal. They needed petrol to make the generator work. They didn't find any petrol there. Chris almost fell into the limp he found. Fortunately, he quickly regained his senses and managed to stop Gladys from starting the fire. Then, they were confronted by the gigantic female orb weaver spider. Fortunately, Chris had previously been provided with perfume by Mike. The scent he sprayed and managed to distract the spider. They immediately left there using Brett's motorcycle. The spider continued chasing the motorcycle Chis and Gladys were traveling on. Fortunately, her size meant she couldn't run freely, but the threat increased as hundreds of spider armies headed back toward the mine. Chris continued driving his motorcycle and stopped to insert a match into the broken light bulb installation to strengthen the fire. He couldn't linger too long because the female spider was approaching anyway. Sam was still struggling to switch on the generator. The generator needed a voltage source to switch on. Fortunately, Ashley brought the stun gun given by Sam. The spiders who had returned to the mine joined the female spider lab to chase Chris. Chris then blew up the mines using Gladys' smoking addiction and the high concentrations of methane gas. At the same time, Sam connected the stun gun to the generator and the electricity began to flow one by one. The lights turned on until, finally, it reached the prepared agency. A large explosion blew up the mall, destroying her spider army. Fortunately, Chris and Gladys were still safe. It turned out that it wasn't just the mine that was destroyed. The fire spread until it finally reached the mall owned by Wade. This was karma for Wade because his company was the reason the city became a toxic waste storage area. So, what do you think about this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.